welcome back everybody to 10-minute tip time, and this is our episode number 6. So we are cruising along and giving you all kinds of great business tips. But today our show is about morning pages. Clear your head, reduce anxiety, and increase your creativity. I'll get it out. Anyway, so this is what we're going to be talking about today. Now, you know our show is sponsored by Platinum Pivot. It's a consortium of experienced professionals that share practical business content and help other professionals navigate challenges. And our guest today is Chrys Calotis. Chrys, can you say hi to everybody?
Hi, everybody.
So Chrys is an educator, researcher, and writer who's turned her focus to longevity economy. Chrys has just launched The New Normal on Medium and on Facebook, where she shares observations and information on the evolving 50-plus market, combating ageism, and navigating a multi-generational workforce. And our interviewer is Helen Latimer. Hi, Helen.
Hi, everybody.
And Helen is our founder from 925 Resources. So Chrys and Helen, please start giving us a better understanding about morning pages.
Perfect. Well, I too love the name Morning Pages. And Chrys, could you give us a bit of a better understanding of what exactly morning pages are?
Absolutely. So basically it's journaling. It's stream of conscious writing. And I know a lot of people are going to turn up their nose at it, but hear me out, because I think that looking at this practice a little bit more carefully, we'll understand why it's different and why it's so good for us right now. So first of all, I want to note that this is not an original idea. Okay, many people will recognize the term or the concept. It comes from a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. It's been around a long time, like 27 odd years or so. And there are a lot of people who swear by this book. It's got tons of fans and tons of testimonials. So this core concept called morning pages, it's called that because you do it first thing in the morning. So immediately after you get up, okay, no checking your phone, no checking your computer, no making breakfast, not even a shower if you can help it. What we don't want to do is bombard ourselves with all the things that come with our daily lives. So we can make a coffee or a cup of tea to drink while we do our morning pages. But the idea is actually not to be fully awake. Okay, when we wake up, we're not a bright, shiny new slate, right? Our head's swimming with anxieties and thoughts and, I got to go get milk today, or, you've got little bits of leftover dreams and whatnot, and it's just really messy. So what we're trying to do is get this mess out of our heads and down onto a page. We can do writing later in the day, but what happens later is that our ego starts to come to the surface. And we also do what's called metacognition, which is basically thinking about our thinking. What we don't want to do is pick ourselves apart that way. We want to just get the raw stuff out.
That sounds really intriguing. So don't even have to get dressed, can have my coffee beside me. And the adjustment that I'm making to my schedule, I'm going to do this because, can you tell me a little bit about the value that I'm going to get for building this into my routine?
Mm-hmm. There's actually a lot of benefit to this. So 3 major things that you'll get out of doing morning pages is that, first of all, you'll clear your head. Okay, you'll be able to process emotions, and you'll be able to silence that inner critic. My inner critic, I always imagine, is like Q from Star Trek. He's so judgmental. Anyway, the 3 processes together, clearing your head, processing emotion, and silencing your inner critic, they can all come together and help you unleash your inner creativity.
Wow, I love that idea. And I think a lot of people, their minds, there's so many things going on right now that we do wake up busy and things. But I guess a concern for some people might be, a little bit more about how the morning pages work. And for people who, writing doesn't come easily, or they don't feel really confident in their writing style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good question. The beauty of this whole process is that it's not about writing style, and you don't have to be good at it. Okay, these are your pages. They're yours and yours alone. So grammar, I can't believe I'm saying this because I used to teach, but grammar, spelling, sentence style, all that stuff doesn't matter at all. If you want to write in chicken scratch, if you want to swear at your inner critic, whatever you want, it's yours and you can put it all down. Don't worry about it. And actually, speaking of writing, one of the things I find interesting is a lot of people will say that their physical writing style will often change with their mood, which is kind of a cool observation. But as far as the pages go, you know, like I said, these are yours. You can shred them later. Some people choose to burn them afterwards because it's nobody's business to your own. But the one thing that absolutely has to be insisted on is that these are done longhand. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, no computer. I'll tell you why. We're very fortunate right now to have the field of neuroscience, which can look into our brains. And neuroscience confirms that our brains work differently when we write with our hands. There's a connection there. There's a thought process there that we simply don't get via keyboard. Okay, typing on a computer is very mechanical. It's very fast, and we have that chance to edit. We don't want that here. We just want free-form thinking. Writing is slow, and slowing down immerses us in the moment. It takes us longer, and that way we don't have a time to edit. We are immersed in our thoughts, and actually we can create new thoughts. What we want out of this process is our authenticity.
I'm just thinking about that because I do a lot of stuff where I write notes by hand, and it is a very different kind of mental processing versus doing it on a laptop. So that's a really interesting component. It starts to sound like a little bit almost like therapy meets success strategy in terms of how this tool comes together. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Okay, so journaling definitely shows up in many of the keys to success type business manuals. Richard Branson has long been a fan, and I know for years he's advocated keeping a notebook. Same with Bill Gates, same with many others. I think, you know, too many new entrepreneurs feel that they have to hit the ground running, that they have to solve the problems right away. And keeping notes, journaling, however you want to look at it, this gives you a few minutes of self-help before you start solving everybody else's problems. Now, as for therapy, it is also a component of many therapeutic strategies, but I want to be very clear that this is not a substitute, and it never should be viewed that way. Okay, I'll remind people that if they need help, if they feel that, please reach out to a certified professional. Okay? As far as this technique goes, I always say that if we're going to help ourselves or reinvent ourselves, we have to have the courage to put our ideas out there. And we have to have the courage to look at our souls and see what's in there. So at first I find that most people will write about their frustrations, their emotional baggage, and all that kind of stuff. And it can take us to a difficult place, but that's actually not a bad thing. Understanding our emotions are the very first step to overcoming the ones that limit us. One of my favorite mantras has always been that between stimulus and response is a space. And in that space, we have the option to do something different. So morning pages helps us get there. By becoming aware of all our habitual thoughts and responses, we can come to understand that we can stop them and choose a different path, that we're not a slave to our habitualized and ritualized thinking.
Can you just tell me a little bit? Oh, sorry, Chrys, I didn't mean to interrupt, but when you talked about the stimulus and the response, can you tell me a little bit more about that?
So with stimulus and response, so we'll go along in our day and something will happen and we fall into a pattern where we behave a certain way, and we do that over and over again. We see that a lot, especially with our families or with coworkers, or somebody will push our buttons. If we stop and think about that, then we can start to understand why we respond in a certain manner. And this can also be transferred to the way we think about businesses, think about our problems. Like, we always seem to think that it's artists, visual artists, painters, dancers who are victims of their emotional ups and downs. And that's simply not the case. You know, think of it more as creative problem solving. Einstein, Hawking, a lot of mathematicians, scientists, business people are creative thinkers. So by getting a grip on some of these things that plague us, we put them out there, we distance ourselves from them, and we can start to pick them apart. And, you know, it's that little bit of distance between our fears and our limits that just give us that extra edge. A lot of people find that they become more productive after doing morning pages. I think it is because we stop carrying that weight and that clutter around with us. It's very subtle, but it's also very, very powerful.
Absolutely. It sounds really intriguing. And I love the way that it sort of helps you create distance, because I think many times in business, when we're dealing with things, we can head down the wrong path when we're getting our emotions too involved, or, you know, and being able to kind of use a tool like morning pages to kind of clear the head, process the emotion, or even just waking up because you had a bad, you know, you just woke up feeling off. You know, which we all have. So I think it sounds very practical, which I love. I love a practical tool. So for somebody who like me is very intrigued by the concept, is there anything special that I need to have in the way of tools or equipment to get going with this?
It's actually really simple. So first you need pages, you need paper. Now this is, you know, you can use anything you want, but here I've got, you know, the old the lined paper that we used to use.
Yep.
So it can be this fancy, it can be a decadent journal, whatever you like, but you're going to write 3 pages of this. And then you need a pen. And I mean, you probably know from years of experience that a pen that writes really well is a thing of beauty. So get a good one. I like pens. I like the charm of them. There's a little old world feel about it. And then the third thing that I recommend is having a little piece of paper, maybe sticky notes, something of that sort. The reason is because at some point you will think of your to-do list. You will think, oh, I got to go buy bread this afternoon. You don't want to dirty that into your morning pages. It's just your task list. Find a great place that you like to sit, someplace cozy, maybe a big chair, maybe your back porch. I would love to do it on a beach. I just don't live there. Darn. Like I said, take your coffee or your tea with you, and this is your time. Just relax and, you know, put your thoughts out there. Write in your bathrobe, write in your jammies, whatever feels good. Expect the whole process to take about 30 to 40 minutes. And, you know, right now during this pandemic is a great time to experiment with this, because most of us don't have to be anywhere first thing in the morning. Some people will say they're not morning people. I'm not. But what I found, and many others have too, is that getting into this habit, waking up that extra little bit earlier, is valuable, because it actually feels like you're creating more time in your day. You have a much more focused day. So I do hope people will sort of, you know, try this out, and maybe we'll hear back about some success stories.
Well, you've made it sound really intriguing, but equally important, I think, is you've also helped me understand, you know, the value, the practical aspects of what I'll get out of the process. And you've made it very, very appealing. The ease of, I just need pen and paper. I can do it in my jammies. So yeah, I'm very intrigued about these morning pages. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Chrys, for giving us some insight to morning pages. I think it's wonderful, and people should just give it a try. What have you got to lose? Certainly not going to cost you any money. And thanks, Helen, for asking those intriguing questions, ones that we would want to ask Chrys as well about it. So this is the end of our 10-minute tip time, episode number 6. But before everyone goes, please remember, do write us comments on any topics that you want us to cover. Please make sure you give us a thumbs up if you like this video, And also ring the bell, make sure that's on the far right-hand side, just touch it. And that'll make sure that you won't miss any more of our videos. And please do share them if you feel as though this information would be really help someone else in business. So thanks again, listeners. Bye, Helen. Bye, Chrys.
Bye-bye. Thank you.